generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we are a little late on getting our Shoot the Sheev out for the month of October, as we are in the first week of November, but better late than never, I suppose. Especially since there's some pretty exciting things that did happen in the month of October for Star Wars, at least
And
from a
some
certain point of
controversial
view.
things.
What's that?
And some controversial things.
Right. That's why I was saying from a certain point of view, because I mean, depending on how you look at it, it's kind of exciting, but at the same time, I don't know. We'll see. So let's just start with the biggest one that happened in October. Let's just get right into it. So Adam Driver, that should be a big name in the Disney Star Wars to everybody. That's Kylo Ren. And he came out and said that there was a script written and ready to go between him and another writer, and Lucasfilm had approved it. It was called The Hunt for Ben Solo. Somehow it was supposed to connect, I guess what Ben Solo was up to after the Rise of Skywalker, so after he had passed on. And it was like the first Star Wars project that went this far that Disney said no. Um, what was your thoughts and reactions to this one?
I am a big Adam Driver fan. I can't even tell you why, because it's not like he's been in a bajillion things like some of the other, big actors these days, because he was Kylo Ren, right? And he was in that, what was it, 65 or 65 years or whatever that movie was. And he hasn't really been in a whole lot since then. There's been some other projects, but not like a
He was
ton
in
and not very big ones.
Gucci and Ferrari.
Yeah, I guess yeah, you're right. I,
I don't
I
think you
guess what
watched
I'm trying to say
Ferrari.
is
I
his
think that
name
was
isn't
just me.
exploding like some of the other stars of today, like Star-Lord, Chris Pratt. Um, but anyway, I really like him, Adam Driver. And so to hear that there was a potential film with him being as like the lead and as Kylo Ren, which I feel like he did a good job, I thought that would have been really cool. Now, I hadn't thought too much about the fact that his character is already deceased, like gone, so what are we gonna do to get him back? I just thought it sounded neat, to be quite honest. And maybe it's because the sequel trilogy was so bad that like my brain has blurred it from existence, which I guess is kind of weird to say because here I am saying I like him in that role, but at the same time I'm kind of negating those movies. I don't know. It's a strange place to be in. But
But
long story short, I think he would have been cool to see in another film.
I think there's some things to consider though that in my opinion gives some optimism of what it could have been like. One, Adam Driver has arguably been the most successful post Disney sequel trilogy Star Wars for any of the main leads. Probably Oscar Isaac is similar, but I think Adam Driver probably takes the cake. And the
That's
thing
fair to say.
is that Adam Driver cared about this character enough that he was part of the writing process. And when he was talking about the script, he said it was one of, we don't swear in this channel, but he said like it was one of the most explicit, best, coolest scripts that he's ever been a part of. And to see somebody be that excited about his character in Star Wars, especially Disney era Star Wars, that tells me that something was brewing there. Something was there that probably a lot of us would have enjoyed. And the fandom is getting like our voices are getting louder and louder about this film too, because there's people that are even buying billboards to put up in like Times Square to say, bring this movie or rejuvenate it. There's all these other projects that Disney thinks, the big word is thinks, that the audience wants to see. But at the end of the day, with the way that the sequel trilogy ended, that could have been a way to either get back on track or at least have some sort of more optimism about some of these sequel trilogy characters. Because I think Kylo Ren was probably the coolest character that came out of sequel trilogy, and then Rey is right behind him. But there's people like John Boyega, which is very vocal about how much he did not like how his character was handled in Star Wars, and my guess is it would be very, very hard to rope him into anything based on how they treated his character. So all of this stuff with Adam Driver was pointing in the direction that this probably could have been something special. And my hope is that the audience that is, paying money to put up billboards and is being really loud about wanting this movie, maybe Disney will listen, especially if Mandalorian does not do as well as they think it's supposed to. I personally don't think it's going to do as well as they hope, but that's just my opinion.
I think my favorite comment that I've heard about this is, the reason why they didn't like it was because his character was gone, right? So how are you going to bring him back to life? And the one that I heard that I think is really fun is, well, why don't you just say somehow he returned? Because that's how Palpatine returned.
Right. Well, that's another thing too. Like Adam Driver, like when I think of him as an actor, I don't see him gravitating to like small petty roles just to pay the bills. I see him picking up roles in scripts because he thinks they are worthy of his time and that, of course he gets paid well. But like when you think about him being a part of like Gucci, Ferrari, like those are big movies that I feel like if the script wasn't good, he wouldn't have been a part of it. And he was really good in those movies. So something tells me that between him and this other writer, they would have done something that was at least explaining how he came back. And it makes me wonder if the bosses over at Disney just didn't even care to look at it. They were just like, no, there's no way. And then they just, passed on it, which honestly is very disrespectful if that's the way it went down because of how much Adam Driver has put into Disney's, IP of Star Wars and making them a bunch of money off his character. In other movie related news, we got a new TV show in October. We got Visions season 3. I have not seen the new season of Visions quite yet. It is on my to watch list. I do really want to watch it here sooner rather than later. But what I can tell everybody is the success that it's had on Rotten Tomatoes. So out of 16 critics, what do you think the percentage is?
Oh boy. Um, well, I'm not well versed in this show to really know how well it's done in the past, but I'm gonna go with 65%.
Critics is at 100% approval.
Woo! I was not gonna guess that high.
Audience is at 64.
Okay.
So it's not rotten, but the audience is kind of like on the brink of not doing the greatest. But it is interesting to see that critics love it.
I'm
I
curious
don't
to
know
see what your
much.
thoughts then once you're finally able to watch it.
What's that?
I said I'm curious to see what your thoughts are then when you're finally able to watch it.
Yeah, a lot of the past two seasons, there's been some bangers and there's been some not so good ones. There's really not been much in between for me. So I'm hoping there's more bangers than not so great ones this time around. I know they're gonna have a sequel to one of the ones in the past, and I'm looking forward to that the most. I think it's in relation to the black and white one. I don't remember the name of the character. I want to
It
say.
was it was samurai, wasn't it?
It
Like
was
samurai
samurai
style.
related. But I don't know. Looking forward to it, that's for sure. I think that's about it in the movies and um, TV realm of things. We did get a small update on Star Wars Eclipse. If you're not familiar with what that is, that was a video game that was announced quite a while ago, quite honestly. And it's actually something it's been so quiet that, in my opinion, I was worried it was going to get canceled. But the developers did have an update to share just saying that, hey, this thing is still in development. Um, the studio opened up a brand new studio recently, and they are trying to support this game as much as possible. If you aren't familiar of like even when this game takes place, it's supposed to take place in the High Republic era. So if you're not familiar with that, that is roughly 200 years before the Phantom Menace. It's kind of that new era that Disney decided to try their like basically making their own Star Wars within. Because of course we had like Knights of the Old Republic, but that was even further back. So this is kind of that little area that Disney has been tampering with. We still don't have a release date. Unfortunately, it's one of those games. I think it's going to be kind of like a Telltale game where it's more narrative driven and like choice making because I'm pretty sure this is the company that made like Detroit Become Human, which is just like that. But there's no timetable, so we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get something at like the video game awards in December. I think that's when that is, because usually there's a handful of reveals and dates announced at that time. So fingers crossed on Star Wars Eclipse.
I love games like that. So if that's the way that it's going to be, I am very excited to see what that ends up being like.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's basically watching a new Star Wars show and they have them come out every couple of years, that would be great to me. I know video games take a decent amount of time to develop and create, but maybe once they have some assets developed, maybe things would be a little bit easier. I don't know, especially since I would think those types of games aren't as taxing to make. I mean, think about it. When we played Dark Pictures, the anthology series, like with Man of Medan, Little Hope, all that, they had a game coming out every year. We don't know how much in development they were before they started doing that, but that gives me some sort of idea of, oh, maybe they could do something like that. That would be really cool, actually, if they did some sort of anthology series with Star Wars in that way. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see
Yeah,
what
I
it's
mean
like.
it's open world and at the same time it's not because there is a story to tell, right? So it's not like you need an entire open world, just a set area.
Well, I mean, open world is kind of like Spider-Man or Knights of the Old Republic or Jedi Survivor, where you're able to hop in a ship, go wherever you want, whenever you want, or traverse the city whenever you want, wherever you want in Spider-Man. So I don't know if that's what this is gonna be.
What I was trying to say is that with these like choose your own adventure types, that I know it's not like a full open world where you can explore everywhere, but you're on like a set mission, so you might be in like a building or something where just that building is kind of open world because you're able to move forward and kind of backtrack a little bit. Um, it's not free range of the whole, universe, but it's free range of a set area.
So kind of like the Dark Pictures games where you're kind of in a certain area, you can look at a couple of artifacts or pictures around the room, but ultimately you are kind of, what's that, railroading? Is that what that's called?
Yeah. Yep, where they're trying to send you in a certain direction.
Right. So. It might be like that. Again, we haven't played Detroit Become Human, but I do know it's the kind of game, kind of like Telltale, where your choices matter. Uh, I've heard it's a very good game. I don't know why we haven't played it yet, but because I think there's like a big map where it shows your choices and how things get you know, affected by what you do. And so, um, yeah, maybe we'll check that out someday. But looking forward to Star Wars Eclipse when it eventually does come out. Um, I'm just happy we had good news about it personally.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Um, oh, I did forget a piece of information for movies and TV shows. It was that the original Star Wars is supposedly going to be re-released for the 50th anniversary in movie theaters in IMAX. So it's going to be a couple of years yet, but could mean considering the original came out in 1977, so 50th anniversary, we still got until 2027. But they are planning on a release into IMAX of the original Star Wars. I think the big thing that people are waiting to hear, and I think we know the answer to the question, but it's more or less would Disney be willing to do it? Is people are wondering what version is going to be released to theaters. Now, they already have the 4K version available on Disney Plus. So my guess is they're just gonna kind of, touch that up a little bit for the IMAX screen and throw it out there. It's cost efficient. But I think what would draw more people in is if they restored the original cut of the film and put that in IMAX. That would make people come in waves, absolute waves. But it also makes me just wonder how that would, you know, when you put a movie that's that old on an IMAX screen, what would that do? And so there's a lot of questions up in the air about it. I probably won't go see it just because, I mean, we saw the original Star Wars in concert, which is really cool. Don't get me wrong, but if it was like Empire or Return of the Jedi in terms of the original trilogy, I think I'd be more inclined to see those in IMAX. Considering we did actually see Return of the Jedi in theaters recently. But
So I'm going to uh well in my mind it sounded way cooler, but there's a phrase I was trying to think of. I don't know why I can't think of it. Um qu question your I'm gonna pose a question to you. How about that? I can't think of whatever the phrase is that I'm trying to say in my brain. Excuse me. Um, how did you like seeing Jaws in IMAX? Because you're talking about the original Star Wars maybe not looking super great in IMAX, but Jaws came out 2 years before the original Star Wars.
yeah, but Jaws, that was just the 4K rendition. I'm talking about like the original cut with no extra edits or special edition stuff added to it.
Okay, I didn't realize that for Jaws we saw an edited version.
Yeah. I mean, it was the updated version via 4K and whatnot. Um, that's why it looked way more crisp than fuzzy.
I
So.
gotcha.
As far as I'm concerned, they have not updated the original cut of the film. And so, unless they have that ready, sitting in the wing for IMAX, and they're gonna blow everybody's minds at like the next Star Wars celebration and announce that, I think it's just gonna be the one that they currently have, so they can cash grab. Especially since Star Wars re-release movies have been doing very well at the box office, considering they don't have to put any money hardly into it. So.
I think you're probably right about them doing the 4K version.
Let's see. We have some book news. I know we talk a lot about books, even though we don't read them. Um,
You do every once in a while.
I do
May-
every once in a while.
Maybe like one or two or three a year.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we got some updates on there's a new book coming out that features Leia and Rey. It's called Legacy. And this was announced, it didn't come out. So the little synopsis that Disney provided, it says, in Star Wars Legacy, an all-new adventure from best-selling author Madeline Rue or Rao. We'll follow Rey and her new master, Leia Organa, on a quest to mend the storied Skywalker lightsaber. So this is a novel that it's kind of explaining the journey of how Rey took the lightsaber that was broken in The Last Jedi and how did she reforge it. Um, it's supposed to come out next July. It does have Kylo Ren on the cover as well. So I'd be curious to read it, especially since, I mean, I'm not a sequel trilogy hater. I recognize how poorly it was handled, but at the same time, it was the resurgence of Star Wars excitement. So it does have kind of a special place in my heart, especially because we did so many of the like opening day watch things in IMAX. And it wasn't just us, it was our families going, there was like 8 or 10 of us going. And so it holds a special place in my heart. So something like this does kind of grab my attention. And, what was the journey that Rey went on to put the lightsaber back together? I don't know. That could be something that maybe it's worthwhile to see. Was there certain parts in the lightsaber that she had to try to find and, you know, maybe she learned some stuff about the Jedi along the way. I don't know. But the big thing for me is that when I read a Star Wars book, I want it to add some sort of lore content to my knowledge and not just be like a Star Wars one-off adventure. And this book could fulfill that. So it's kind of on my radar.
Well, and in terms of not being a fan of the sequels or not liking certain aspects, when you're talking about like a book that would elaborate on some of the lore, like what you're talking about, I feel like, especially because it's in book form, it can kind of be however you visualize it. So when we talk about things like the Leia Mary Poppins scene where she's floating through space, that probably looked way cooler in your mind if you were to read it than how they portrayed it in the film, you know?
Right. Yeah, 100%. Um, Here's an interesting one. There was a book announced called Star Wars Eyes Like Stars. And the little tagline at the bottom of the book says a Star Wars romance novel. And so the synopsis here says New York Times bestselling author Ashley Poston is writing the first official Star Wars romance novel, Eyes Like Stars. New York City Comic Con got the first look at the dreamlike cover for the young adult novel, which features a couple in search of their happily ever after in the galaxy far, far away. A charming young adult romance set about a year and a half before The Force Awakens features all new characters, a mysterious artifact, and the fearsome First Order. So we will see, pieces that are familiar to us for that time period, like the First Order. But it does make me wonder, what is this? Like, is this just two people in the Star Wars universe? Do one of them have ties to any legacy characters? Does either of the characters have ties to the Jedi or ties to bounty hunters? What is it? What is it going to be? So that comes out next summer. What are your thoughts on the first ever love novel?
This might be one of the first Star Wars books I actually read. Um, I am not typically a big reader. It's I usually find a lot of excuses to not have the time for it, but yet I have time for other things. Uh, I would say some Star Wars books interest me more than others. This is one that I could see myself potentially getting into, just because this is the type of books that when I do find the time to read, that's typically what I like to read. Um, so I'm very curious to see. And what I would like to know is one of them going to be force sensitive? And will it be one of the female characters? Because we don't know if it's, a typical hetero couple or not. But
The
the
cover looks
reason
like a boy and a girl.
okay. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because I feel like we don't see a lot of female force sensitive characters.
I would say force
There's
sensitive.
Ray, right? And I'm not saying we don't have a lot of female strong characters. I'm saying specifically female force sensitive characters.
I can name off a handful, but it's okay.
Okay, well, I don't know. I think it would be interesting or something different. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
Not saying we don't have any, but just might spice it up a little.
I wouldn't put it past them if the female character is force sensitive. And the reason why I say that is because Disney has been very female centered for their main characters, like Rey, for example, Jin Erso. Um, I guess you could say Cassian is the star of his own show, but at the same time, I don't know if he really is. Um, because I think the female characters are more interesting in that show. Team Dedra. But we'll see. Who knows? Next summer. So put that on your book list.
What was the
Uh,
name of it again?
name of Eyes Like Stars. It almost looks like an anime cover in a way, but
We shall see.
another one that was announced was the art of the Mandalorian and Grogu. So some I'm not the target audience here because I do not collect the art books. They're cool if you're into them. I mean, I don't think like badly of these books. They're more expensive in my opinion for what I would get out of them. But there was an announcement of the art of the Mandalorian and Grogu. So again, that's the new movie that's coming out. That one will come out next September, which is after the movie comes out.
I was just gonna say, do you think it'll be spoilers? But that makes sense.
No, they'll let people marinate and it'll probably closer to releasing alongside the streaming release of the movie is my guess. Let's see. There's going to be a new manga that follows some of the Star Wars Vision stories. I'm gonna probably butcher this, but I think it's called Sakumo is my guess because I know the T is silent. It says it's from the all-star creators of the latest Ultraman manga. Haven't read it. In the wake of Order 66, a lone Jedi Knight accompanies a pair of droids to a rumored droids paradise while being pursued by the Empire. So this is a Jedi that's on the run from the Empire. It's another story that has that outline from Disney. You know, like before Disney bought Star Wars, it was said that there weren't many Jedi that survived Order 66, but yet there's a whole bunch according to Disney. Oh, let's see. We got some High Republic adventure books from Dark Horse Comics. One of them is called Oh, they're both called Pathfinders. They must be just different issues or maybe different covers. Let's see. What is the focus here? It's the covers of the first two issues, which follows a brand new team of Republic Pathfinders as they are dispatched to a distant corner of the galaxy to investigate the strange death of a Jedi Master. Um, really nothing much more than that. So, if you're into the High Republic, there's some more of those coming. There's comics from a Boba Fett series coming out very soon. There's also one about Jar Jar Binks. So if you're big into Jar Jar, we got one of those coming out. Oh, Mandalorian visual guide, Industrial Light and Magic, 50 Years of Innovation, which is another like behind the scenes type book. There's a coloring book of the Mandalorian and Grogu. There's a Funko Pop coloring book of the Mandalorian. The Art of Andor. Lots of stuff here, people. Lots of stuff. The Art of the Acolyte. If you're an Art of fan, then there's a whole bunch coming for you. Oh, here you go. This will change it up. The Mandalorian Crochet Kit. So if you want to learn how to crochet, there's a lot of options there.
But is there a bantha?
There is not a bantha.
Oh,
They have the creature that he has like on his shoulder. I forget what that's called. Uh,
I
the
do
thing with
not
the big
recall.
horn.
Oh yeah, the like
Yeah.
rhino type.
So let's see. They have a Jawa, they have Gideon, Ahsoka, Mando, Grogu, the creature we just talked about, Bo-Katan, and I want to say that's like a Babu Freak type character.
Okay. We got
So
some good ones then. Hey, I was gonna ask you, when you're talking about these art of books, is it generally like a picture book of the story, or is it like a behind the
no.
scenes how they do the art style kind of a thing?
They're more like concept art books. So maybe they'll show a picture of what a scene was supposed to look like, or maybe how it was thought to be in the first place and how they changed it. So they show a lot of things that also maybe didn't even make it into the film. Like if you look at the Force Awakens art of book, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that related to Kylo Ren that didn't make it into the final cut of the film. So they're interesting in that sense because you kind of get this idea of the other stuff that the team wanted to do, but at the same time, I feel like if some of those reveals were significant enough, we would hear more about it in Star Wars news. I just don't hear a whole lot from all those different things. That's actually how I decide sometimes whether to read a Star Wars book or not. Like if I see that there's a pretty cool plot point that was discovered or investigated during that novel, that'll make me want to go to it. I don't hear a whole lot about these art books. And when we see them at like discount stores and I flip through them, they're just not my thing.
Yeah.
They're definitely somebody's thing because they're making tons of these.
I just wasn't sure if it was like an illustrated version of the story versus behind the scenes. And it sounds like it's more behind the scenes type stuff.
Yeah. No, it's not a picture book of the movies and TV shows. It's like for your information type. And then you can kind of see what were the drawings compared to, what was put on film. I think that's about it. Double check my notes. Was there anything that popped up this past month, that you thought was interesting?
No, I think we covered everything that I was aware of. I know we got Star Wars Day or the holiday coming up this coming November, but I don't really have any news to share about it per se. I haven't really heard of any celebration or merch release that's coming out. I'm sure there will be stuff like that. I just haven't really heard anything about it. Um,
Yeah,
but that's what I'm looking forward to.
Disney's definitely been embracing the merch side of things with Life Day, and I think it came out already, if not coming out soon. There's like a new action figure of Chewbacca in the robes with like the little globe thing, or orb, I should say. So they definitely have things coming out, and maybe there'll be a huge merch drop as we get closer to it, but they're kind of inching their way towards it. But that was our stories for the month of October. Again, arguably the biggest one was the Adam Driver story, and hopefully something comes of that because that's arguably my favorite character that came out of the sequel trilogy. And if there's somebody that has passion behind it and it is the character or the actor of the character himself, something's got to give there that would make the fandom excited. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, that was our monthly Shoot the Sheev video where we talk about all the different news that happened in the month. This month we talked about October. So towards the end of November, we will be back here talking about all the things that were announced in the month of November. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drops a like if you liked the video and drops a comment letting us know if there's any news stories that we didn't mention that you think would be worthwhile mentioning, or if you have an opinion on the ones that we talked about, let us know what you think. And then as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.